I got a woman way over town that's good to me. Oh yeah, say I got a woman
Way over town. That's good to me. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Woo, 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 woo. Way over town. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, today we are reading the transcript, a full Joseph McNeil interview. Today, a grade. This is one of my favorites out of Common, to be honest. So you know what the deal is. Of course, we are going to read the background information about this text prior to getting started, just to make sure that we can understand the background of the text. So go ahead and read that. You can pause the video now or wait a couple seconds for us to read it out loud. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So about this text, so it says, Joseph McNeil is a retired Major General in the United States Air Force who is best known for civil rights activism in which he participated in when he was a teenager in 1960. Specifically, the sit-ins at a Woolworth's lunch counter in North Carolina. In the interview below, McNeil describes his experience as an activist and the effect it had on his life and the lives of others. As you read, pause to answer the questions beside the text. All right? And then, of course, we got some vocabulary. So we've got activist, associate, controversy, noble, segregate, and spontaneous. All right? Here we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into this whole class reading. Let me go ahead and blow this up for you all. So just like our other videos as well, we will read through the paragraphs and then we'll stop. I'll read the question out. You'll have a couple seconds to either write your answer out or you can pause the video, so on and so forth, and then we'll continue with the reading. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Okay. It's like 3. Sorry, y'all, my dog's in the background. All right. My name is Joseph McNeil. I'm 65 years old and I was born in Wilmington, North Carolina, 1942. Why did I become an activist? I guess I've been an activist, if you want to use that term, all my life. Feelings that are deep and reflective of who you are, there are not points in life where one starts and one stops. I was blessed in life with very strong, proud parents and good teachers, and I learned early what I now call core values. Things that I base my life on, things that matter to me. So in a sense, I've been an activist all of my life, as far as I can remember. If you see something wrong, you stand up, you take it on. You try to do things that matter. My core values allow me to focus on what I will call the dignity of mankind. I believe that mankind's fundamentally good and good will prevail over evil. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and switch to our first question here. I got my reading voice on today, yeah. So it says think and share, but we are still going to physically write an answer here. Okay, so it says, according to McNeil, what does it mean to be an activist? Right? So what does it mean to be an activist according to McNeil? So right now you can either pause the video or you can go ahead and answer the question. Here are the first 4 paragraphs to review if you'd like. And here is the question again. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and continue. These songs are acting up. Okay.
Is there any specific thing that led to you being an activist?
There are no particular triggers that would be isolated. It all has to be put in context. I grew up in the South in a segregated environment. I lived in New York City for 3 or 4 of those years, and every summer went to public school 13 in Harlem in the 3rd grade. I went to St. Thomas, the Apostle, in the 8th grade also. So the environment of being in the North in the summer and going to a segregated environment in the South, back and forth, molded who I am.
First, tell us what you did that brings us here today.
Every year, various forums and matters have become part of the commemorative process where we talk about the sit-ins from the 1960s. And I was a key part of the sit-ins and something I'm personally very, very proud of. But those sit-ins influenced many people in my life, and I'm so proud to be associated with them. I just saw a movie, The Great Debate. The Great Debaters by Denzel Washington, and one of the characters in there in that movie was James Farmer. I met James Farmer. I knew James Farmer. James Farmer almost talked me into being part of the Freedom Rides. There are so many people who are truly great, good human beings involved in that civil rights experience. I'm so happy, personally, to have been part of that. Okay, we're gonna stop. We kind of missed this question here. So, during McNeil's childhood, how was the North different from the South? So we're looking at paragraphs 5 to 6 to answer those questions. That question there. So again, the question is, during McNeil's childhood, how was the North different from the South? Okay, here's that paragraph in specific before we move on. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over some of these footnotes as well. So fundamentally, it was one of the bolded words at the top. It's an adverb, okay? And it means at the most basic level, okay? Prevail is a verb, okay? To win, to succeed, to be victorious. I prevailed in Miss Agbasoga's class, or I prevailed in basketball where I thought I wasn't really that talented, or so on and so forth. Commemorative, it's an adjective, and it means for the purpose of remembering and showing respect for someone or something. Okay, and then when the text mentions James Farmer, he was an African-American civil rights activist and a founder of the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE. Okay, and then Freedom Rides, when he mentions Freedom Rides here, Freedom Rides were political protests against segregation by blacks and whites who rode buses together through the South in 1961. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and continue. I became involved and started the sit-ins because I fundamentally believed that segregation was an evil. And I thought it was important for me to step up and to do something about this. It was important as a part of my becoming a man. My friend and cohort, Frank McCain, says it was a down payment on our manhood, and in many, many ways. Okay, so here we are with our next question. So what injustice did McNeil fight against? All right, what injustice did McNeil fight against? And here's that paragraph 9. So we can refer back to the text. Feel free to either pause the video or wait a couple seconds for us to move on. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue our reading here.
Tell us, you were 17 on February 1st, 1960. Take us back to that date when you and your cohorts went to that whites-only lunch counter at Woolsworth.
Okay. February 1st, 1960. 3 of my colleagues, David Richmond, who was no longer with us, Jabril Kazan, who at the time was Azell Blair Jr., and Franklin McCain, and I sat down at a segregated Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. We ordered apple pie and coffee. We were not served. We were previously in other parts of the store where we purchased items like toothpaste, notebook paper, other sundry items without incident. When we sat down at this lunch counter and asked to be served coffee and apple pie, we were told that we couldn't be served. We were told by several people that if we continued to sit at this lunch counter that we were going to get in a lot of trouble. And we advised the store and its employees and its managers that we intended to sit and to continue to sit until they served us. Because they had served us in other parts of the store, so they can in fact serve us if they chose to do so. So we continue to sit. All right? So let's go ahead and look back up here where it says right. Okay? What did McNeil and the other civil rights activists do when the Woolworths counter staff, I cannot read today, wouldn't serve them? So what did McNeil and the other civil rights activists do when the Woolworths counter staff wouldn't serve them? All right. Here is the paragraph 11 that is referring to. You can either pause to answer your question or wait a couple seconds for us to move on. Then we also have a turn and talk, but please be reminded that we are looking for written answers for your turn and talks as well. Okay, so what do you think happened next in paragraph 12? What do you think they're gonna like? What y'all think is gonna happen next? What y'all think is going on? Okay, so you can either pause here. Here's the text again. Okay, so I'm ready to see what's gonna happen next. However, let me look at this. Okay, we'll read one more paragraph. Yeah, I'm going to jump here. What happened next? Okay. The store manager called the police, and the policeman came, and he walked back and forth behind us. And he took his nightstick and thumped it in his hand in a threatening manner. But we continued to sit. People stopped and looked at this phenomenon that was taking place. We continued to sit. The store was getting ready to close, and we had been sitting for about an hour and 30 minutes, and an elderly white lady came and sat beside my friend Frank McCain and I, and she looked at Frank and said, "Son, I am so disappointed in you." And McCain looked at her in amazement and said, "Ma'am, you're disappointed in me? Why would you be disappointed in me? You don't know me," she said. "Well, I'm disappointed, and the reason I'm disappointed is that it took you boys so long to do what you're doing." And a smile came on McCain's face as well as mine. That was our first sign of open support. Somebody stepping forward and saying, "You're doing the right thing," even though it may be controversial. Okay? So let's answer this question here. Y'all, let's get on. Let's get on. So, paragraph 12, real quick. What was the store manager trying to achieve by calling the police? What do y'all think that they were trying to achieve by calling the police? Please write your answer here. Let me know. Can't wait to see these answers. Yes, paragraph 12. If you need to refer back to paragraph 12, here is here. Okay, you can pause the video if you need to, or you can wait a couple more seconds for us to move on. All right, y'all. Hope y'all are still with me. We got paragraph 13. And then that is it for this first day. Okay? So, the help in the store advised us to leave because it was their means of employment. I don't think they had too much of a choice, so we left the store. We didn't get served coffee or apple pie. We told the store manager that we'd be back and we'd keep coming back until they served us. As we left the store, we were met by an Associated Press photographer. Jack and I forget Jack's last name. He recently passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, but he took a picture of the four of us leaving the store. And there was a short newspaper article noting that day 4 students sat at a lunch counter and said they were going to keep coming back until they were served. So that made the press, and we went back to campus. Because we were young at that time, I was 17, the youngest, we knew that we needed help. So we approached several other students. I would say we probably approached 16 in all, and 5 or 6 said they would come back with us the next day. And they did. And so our burgeoning movement of 4 grew into 8. The next day there were probably 25 of us. This what I would call a movement, it turned out in hindsight to be a movement. We didn't know that at the time, but this movement started to grow. So that by the end of the third day, our 25 of us was happening, but in another city. Winston-Salem and Portsmouth, Virginia, a couple of other cities, High Point, North Carolina, all these places started to have spontaneous sit-ins at these Woolworth lunch counters. Okay, let's back it up. Okay, paragraph 13. How did the actions of McNeil and his friends affect others? How did their actions affect others? Okay, here is paragraph 13 again. Here is a piece of it. This is the first half of paragraph 13. Please feel free to pause the video now, or you can add. Or you can wait a couple seconds for me to keep moving down. Okay, here is the rest of paragraph 13. Alrighty, and here is the question again. Okay, after you finish that first question, how did the actions of McNeil and his friends affect others? I also want you to underline, because you know if you ain't got no evidence, you ain't got nothing for me! Right? Perfect. So, you're going to underline 3 details that support your answer. Okay? 3 details that support your answer within the text. If you do not have your common lit packet, you can write down paragraph 13 sentence 8 or 9, so on and so forth, okay? Or if you like to fully write out paragraph 13 and write us a sentence, that'd be perfect too, right? So here's the first half of paragraph 13 again. Feel free to pause the video. And then here is the second half of paragraph 13. Alrighty, y'all, it's been a beautiful day 1. See y'all later. Paragraph 14 through the rest of the text will be tomorrow. Deuces.